Hi, I'm Colin, and this is a picture of my grandfather, my uncle and my father. My great-grandfather was born in the 1800s, and during his life he didn't spend a single day in school. My father was born in 1911, a little over 100 years ago. He went to school for 5 years and learned how to read and write and do basic maths. At 10 years of age, he started work in a foundry, and on the job he learned everything he needed to know to flourish in his world. I was born a little over 50 years ago, and I spent 2 years in kindergarten, 6 years in primary school, 6 years in secondary school, and over 10 years at university, all to survive in the world that I live in. My great-grandfather survived with no education. My father's education took 5 years, and my education took over 28 years. So I can't help wondering how many years my children and my children's children will have to spend in the educational system to survive in the world we are creating for them. We now live in a world which has no resemblance to the world in which we evolved, and we expose our children to a society and an educational system that is filled with pressures and stresses that are unlike anything else ever experienced in the evolutionary history of humans. At the biochemical and physiological level, our bodies respond to all forms of stress in exactly the same way. And it doesn't matter if the stress is caused by facing an occasional hungry lion or facing the constant pressures associated with school life. In today's world, our stress response is being activated almost continuously. And the accumulation of stress hormones in our bodies is a major cause of the spiraling mental health crisis that is sweeping across the world. 1 in 7 primary school students and 1 in 5 secondary school students suffer from anxiety. And most psychologists agree that anxious children grow up to become anxious adults. If we choose to ignore the rising mental health problem in our schools and think in some way our job is done when we create a computer-like brain that can simply regurgitate knowledge, then we are at risk of building a new, hapless cyber society on a trembling foundation of stress and anxiety. The psychological health and happiness of our society is under threat. And if we're serious about tackling the problem, then we must begin in our schools. The film that follows provides us with an opportunity to reflect upon our society, our school system, and perhaps stimulate our thinking about the future of education in our rapidly changing world. At the turn of the century, we lived in a very different world. The motor car had not been invented, there were no computers, no telephones, and man had not yet walked upon the moon. Life was simple, and work was hard. In a world filled with time-saving devices, we seem to have endless opportunity to spend more time doing the things that matter most in our lives. More time to spend with family and friends. More time to relax, have a holiday and play with the kids. We have fast cars and public transport to save on time travel, trucks and trains to bring food to our major cities, airplanes, computers and machines to do all the work we used to do. But somehow we haven't known when to stop. In our desperate attempt to make our lives easier, we work harder and longer than ever before. And with all our time and labour-saving devices, we seem to take fewer holidays and spend less time with all the people we love the most. The more time and labour-saving devices we invent to make our lives easier, the more money we need to save, and the harder we have to work to get them. The more we've improved our environment to make life easier, the more complicated we've made it. So now our children are sentenced to 15 to 20 years at school and universities just to learn how to survive in this complex and stressful environment we've made for ourselves. We're encouraged to fit so much activity into every day that each minute in our lives is controlled by the clock. When the clock reads 6:30 a.m., for example, we have to jump out of bed and get ready for work. 8 a.m. means that everyone has to look busy. 10 a.m. means we can stop looking busy for 10 to 15 minutes. And then you have to look busy again. And so our days are chopped up into little pieces, and each segment of time is allocated and controlled by a clock, a sign, or a set of rules. Although we live by the clock, we can't turn the clock back to a simpler time where our wealth was measured in smiles and laughter. It's no wonder that most of us are searching for something that relieves us from the stress and strain of modern-day living. Pills, cigarettes, comfort foods, alcohol and other drugs are often used to provide temporary relief from our stressful lives. But perhaps we could find a better way of dealing with stress. A way of dealing with stress that doesn't rely on drugs or comfort food.